No big, I feel like Pac. I shoot a shot. I'm coming in hot.
What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Tapped In 209. It's me, it's Drew. We got Alvin and K-Mud. We got the full squad in here for the whole episode today. It's going to be a long one, I think, today. We had Coach Scooter Bloom on. We'll have him on for at the end of this. At the end of the episode, as always, we'll talk about our playoff football. We're going to be talking about basketball as we get into the first week. A couple teams have already played, and everything like that. So before we get into it, though, we'd all like to say Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. We know this comes out right before. So thank you for taking the time to watch and everything like that with everybody, how busy it is. With that, let's get right into football. Going into our Division 7, number 7 Linden goes on the road to Somerville and takes them down. Somerville was the 3 seed. They take them down 27-21. On the Linden side, it was Jacob Ricketts with 7 for 14, 141 and 2 touchdowns. Andrew Juarez, 22 carries, 190 and a touchdown. And through the air, DeAndre Smith, 4 catches, 110, 2 touchdowns. Lincoln Lie with a sack, and their defense came out strong. 7 TFLs, tackle for losses, excuse me. With that, they will take on number 1 seed Calaveras, who is so far 10-2. They'll take them on November 28th, 9 o'clock, for that championship game. Very surprising run for Linden, I would say. 7 seed in the championship. Like, you don't see that very often.
Linden always is a very strong small school program, right? Like, they're always going to play for, they're always going to get to the playoffs. They're always going to make a good deep run. So to me, not really surprising, but yeah, as the 7th seed, maybe they were misseeded or whatnot, but they move on to play Calaveras. So that should be a good one.
Should be great. Mm-hmm. Alvin, take us away with D4.
All right, Division 4, we have the Lancers from East Union doing it again as the number 4 seed. They defeat 12 Bridges, who was the number 1 seed, 61-55. Quarterback Kirk Simone, 26 of 35, 339 yards, 4 touchdowns and an interception. Jackson Fay, 7 carries, 59 yards, 2 touchdowns. On top of that, 9 receptions, 125 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Our guy, Braden Camara, 17 carries, 154 yards, 1 touchdown. JP Abreu, 9 receptions for 164 yards. I think we talked about this. It's as this team goes, a lot of it is with Kirk, with Simone, but we also said Braden. Braden's taking it up a notch these playoffs.
Yeah.
East Union will take on number 2 seed Roseville on November 29th at 4 p.m. I think we talked about where all these games are. I think they're all at Sac City, correct?
I believe so.
Sure.
I think
but
maybe
in the past they have been there.
Like Linden might be at another high school. I know those games typically sometimes are hosted at St. Mary's and stuff like that.
Right.
But potentially D4, those D4 and up games might be at Sac City.
Right. So, yeah. And D3.
Yeah, Kama, take us away.
For our D3 game, we had Oakdale, the 2 seed, going up against Fandon, the 6 seed. Oakdale won this game 45-13. And here's some stats for Oakdale. Grant Gardner, he went 4 for 7, 64 yards and touchdown. Wes Burford had 32 carries, 185 yards and 3 touchdowns. And on his defensive side, he had 8 tackles. Five of those were tackles for losses and 2.5 sacks. He's just doing it on both sides.
Yeah.
And Anthony Navarro, he had 7 carries, 108 yards, and a touchdown. Eli Fisher, he had 12 tackles, 3 tackles for losses, and half of a sack. And altogether, they had 16 defensive tackles for losses, and they will take on number 1 seed Wood Creek, and they were 11 for 1 for the year. And that game is on the 28th of November at 4 p.m.
Yeah. I think the biggest impact here is actually Wes on the defensive side. Yeah, he had his game,
Hmm.
185 yards and 3 touchdowns, but defensively, he really stepped it up. Eight
Yeah.
tackles isn't a lot, but 5 of them for loss, 2.5 sacks. Like, we haven't seen that from him, especially when he's playing both sides of the ball.
Hmm.
Just a ridiculous game. So, Division Two, our last one for last games for football, and it was St. Mary's Manteca, and what a game that one was! Another thriller, pretty much all the way to the end. Pretty slow start, 7-0 at halftime. St. Mary's
Mm-hmm.
was up, but they get this win on the road, 19-14. On the St. Mary's side, it was Jaden Galvan was 16 for 30, two 37, 2 touchdowns with an interception. Diego Hernandez had another game, 20 carries for 114. He really stepped it up. Ivan Huerta, of course, has continued to do it. 7 catches, 101, and a touchdown. Jeremy Krause, the game-winning touchdown at the end of the game, 3 receptions, 74 yards, and that touchdown. St. Mary's will take on Granite Bay, who are the 2 seed at 9-3, on the 29th, 7:30, Sac City.
I will say yes. I just confirmed that all games will be held at Sac City. I will say that game was a lot different from the last game St. Mary's had against Jesuit. It was a slop and a mess out there on that field. The field was wet from the week before, all the rain.
Hmm.
But I mean, like I said, Huerta had another fantastic grab. I had 2 defenders draped on him, goes up and gets the ball. And then we had Jeremy Krause with a great catch in the open field and scoring. So another great win by the Rams again. Um, it was different.
Yeah,
St. Mary's wasn't able to throw the ball all over the place. It was sloppy. It was muddy. You got to learn. It was a grass field, so you take what you get out there.
yeah. I
So
think the I
try.
think the biggest thing is to me watching. I only got to watch the first half, but it felt like Manteca changed. They weren't playing Manteca football.
No,
They
St.
felt
Mary.
like they felt like it to me. It felt like they tried to copy what Jesuit did, um, on offense. If that makes sense. Like they weren't running the ball as much as they did.
The Rams would not. The defensive line, I give a lot of credit to the D line and the linebackers, on for the Rams because they would not let Nico Juarez get going. They were able to stop, him from even getting started. So,
Yeah,
and they came, they went on the road, won their game, and now they're moving on to the championship game. Um,
yeah. Should be great.
this week. Yep.
It's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
With that, before we get into basketball, we'll take a look at one of our final heat checks. And at the 5 spot, it's the Buffaloes. They took their first loss of the season. They're in at the 5 spot because we only have 4 teams remaining now. So that's kind of it. They again take their first loss. They were hot all year, and not a bad end of the year.
Yep.
K-Mud, take us away with 4.
And number 4, we have Linden.
Yeah, been
Mhm.
hot, continuing playoffs.
Yep.
Yep.
Alvin 3.
Number 3, we have East Union, the Lancers from East Union. They're moving on. Sort of, stumbled there towards the end of the year, but they are picking it up at the playoffs at the right time. Like I think I said it before the playoffs started. I picked East Union to win their division. We are 1 game away from that coming to fruition. Um,
Hmm.
yep,
Yeah, another 60-point game for them.
yep.
Don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
And at the 2 spot, we got Oakdale continue to roll in their Division 3. I think they win that one as well. I know I believe they have Wood Creek. We said it's gonna be tough, but you got to find a way to
Yep.
stop West, and nobody has.
Yes,
So,
correct.
K Mud, well, who's won?
Number 1 would be St. Mary's. I mean, they beat an undefeated team. So it's just
Yeah,
kind
in
of out
championship.
there.
It
Hmm.
doesn't get much hotter than that.
Yeah.
I will say something for viewers to think about. Every Player of the month that was selective: Braden Kamara from East Union, Wes Burford from Oakdale, Diego Hernandez from St. Mary's. All three of these guys are playing in their section championship game. So just a little bit to think about, coming from Tapped In 209, moving forward.
Yeah,
So
and we talked about all three of them. They all tore it up
well,
last week.
we had all three on our show. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Tore it up. Continue
yeah,
to show up in the playoffs like that. That's what these guys are. That's what they
yeah,
get. That's what these guys do. Excuse me.
yeah, yeah.
So
So
before we get into basketball, let's hear from Johns.
all right, John's Deli. All right, let's be real. If your lunch came out of the drive-through window, you deserve better, like way better. That's why you need to hit up John's Deli, the spot where sandwiches are stacked so high you practically need a game plan to tackle them. We're talking fresh baked bread, real meat, zero mystery ingredients, and enough flavor to make your taste buds do a touchdown dance. So ditch the sad sandwich life and go over to John's Deli. Tell them the podcast sent you. Maybe they'll get you some extra meat. No promises, but hey, worth a shot. John's Deli is located at 2112 Pacific Avenue, Stockton, California.
Yeah. And with that, it's basketball season, and we've been talking about it throughout. We got our upcoming games for this week. They're a little long because some teams have already played a couple of games. So, with that, let's go ahead and take a look over at the VOL. K-Mud.
The first game of VOL, we have Patterson at Livingston. And this game will be on November 29th, Saturday. Patterson is 1-0. They beat Grace Davis 43-37. For our next game, we have Oakdale at Chowchilla on November 28th. That's a Friday. The day right after Thanksgiving. In our next game, we have Central Catholic versus Monterey, and this will be on December 4th on Thursday. Our next game is Mountain House versus Lincoln on November 26th, and that's on a Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. And we have East Union versus Justin Garza. They're out of Fresno, and that game will be on November 29th, and that's a Saturday. Another game we have is Manteca versus Lodi. That's on November 29th, Saturday. And Manteca is already 1-0, and they beat Upgrove 63-61. That was just a nail biter game. And our final game we have is Sierra at Ripon on December 2nd, Tuesday. Sierra is already 1-0, and they beat Los Banos 90-53.
Yeah. Alvin,
All
is
right.
that Lincoln Mountain House game? Is that Lincoln of Stockton or is that
That
Lincoln of
is
Lincoln?
Lincoln of Stockton. I
Okay.
was just going to add that's going to be a very good game.
Yeah.
That's good. Mountain House is a good program, and Lincoln is one of the best programs in the area. I would venture to say the TCal division is the equivalent of the division that I forget the name, the one that Folsom, Oak Ridge, Jesuit are all in for football. So,
Yeah.
That's the big powerhouse for football, division. But I would say TCal is the equivalent of that moving forward. So that game is going to be a good game to watch if you are in the area. I think it's in Mountain House next or this Wednesday. So
Perfect.
all right.
Yeah. Alvin, take so with TCal.
All right, Tico, we got some good ones coming out of the chute. Modesto Christian travels to Dublin on November 29th on Saturday. Once again, we went over this game, Lincoln at Mountain House on Wednesday, the 26th. Another game to watch out for if you are not doing anything on next Saturday, Lodi at Manteca. This is Coach Hitz with Lodi's second year with Lodi. He returns back to his former program that he coached. He previously coached at, very successful coach at Manteca. Lodi is 1-0 with the win over Pleasant Grove, 66-55. St. Mary's travels to Granite Bay on Saturday, December 2nd, Tuesday. Tracy will play Deer Valley. Deer Valley is out of Antioch Wednesday on December 3rd. West takes on Franklin from Stockton on Tuesday, December 2nd. Kimball travels to Monte Vista. Monte Vista is out of Danville, I believe, on November 26th, Wednesday. Kimball is 1-0. They had beat Ames College Prep, which is out of Oakland, 74-39.
All right.
So,
Well, I got the SJ2A. Starting up first, Bear Creek will take on Denair on the 4th of December. That's a Thursday. McNair Chavez on the 2nd. That's also on a Tuesday. McNair's 1-0 so far. They beat Armio out of Fairfield 70-41. Weston Ranch will take on Bakersfield Christian on December 4th as well. Edison and Rio Americano out of Sacramento will face off on the 29th this Saturday. Chavez McNair already said, excuse me. Chavez 0-1 so far, lost their first game of the year to Pittman 37-45. Stag versus Atwater on Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. Stag's 0-2 so far. A loss to Sierra and a loss to 12 Bridges. Franklin will take on Elk Grove the 11-29 this Saturday. And then Tokay will go to Escalon on the 2nd of December. Excuse me. For our last game, Venture Academy will take on Waterford December 4th. Venture's 0-1 so far, and their only loss coming to Christian Brothers 72-70.
I will say Western Ranch late score. They played last night. They defeated Oakland 79. I'm sorry, that's 79-78.
Wow.
So yeah, we're off and running this week. Basketball is going. We will report next week on. We have our football championship games, and we'll start rolling into basketball. And yeah, it's going to start getting busy. We're moving.
So
yeah,
we're moving. So
I have one thing to ask.
Sure.
Do you know what division Venture Academy is in now?
Venture Academy is an independent team.
What does that mean?
So that means that they will play teams out of their schedule. I'm sorry. They will play teams from all over different divisions. We're hoping to have Coach King on shortly. He's agreed to do an interview with us where he can better explain to us how that works, how it works for them making the playoffs, becoming playoff eligible. So that will be coming in the next couple weeks of having him on our show.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
So,
yeah.
yes.
With that, sticking to our basketball section, we told you about the interview that's coming up, and it is second-year head coach over at St. Mary's, Coach Scooter Bloom. We'll see him right now. What's up, everybody? We got Coach Bloom, St. Mary's basketball varsity head coach. Coach Bloom, how are you doing today?
Great. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. We know basketball season's ramping up and everything. We got first week this week, so thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Floor's yours.
Yeah. Before we get our interview started, I just want to take a moment. Our Stockton basketball community lost a member last week, Jordan Bell, who was coaching at Weston Ranch. Actually, was set to coach at Folsom this year, but played for me in our Stockton Maverick program 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Great kid, great family. Up and coming coach, and just it's tough. And I just wanted to share my condolences with his family, everyone who either played with him, coached him, played for him. It was pretty devastating news this week. So definitely want to shout out to the family and the community, because I think a lot of people are rallying to do something nice for him. If you can, David's Pizza, Monday morning. I don't know when this is going to air, but on Monday they're helping out. It was tough to lose a former player at such a young age.
Absolutely.
Very,
very saddening.
Yeah.
So with that, Coach, we'll get right into this interview. And I just want to ask you, first question is, how did you get to where you are? What is your background?
Um, so I, basketball, growing up playing CYO, went to Annunciation. Um, I just loved it, right? Like at that time, there was no AAU was just kind of starting when I was in middle school. But at that age, you played everything, right? Everyone played soccer in the fall, and then basketball, and then baseball, and then swam in the summer. Like we all did the same kind of thing. But summertime was always about basketball camp. St. Mary's basketball camp was like high on the priority list of things to do. And Coach John Gustorf obviously was varsity coach at the time running the camps. And so I just loved it, man. I loved hoops. Wasn't the greatest player in the world, I'll be honest. But I loved it. And I spent a lot of time in my front yard by myself, playing. And when I was 15, I think, sophomore in high school, my younger sister she was the athlete of the family, and she was playing CYO Annunciation for my former coach, Lewis Held. And I was just kind of like, always kept the scorebook for them when they were younger. And then I was just hanging around their practices, and he was like, well, why don't you come help me out? So I was kind of helping him. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was the assistant coach. And then the next year he took the freshman girls job, said he'd only do it if I'd help him, which was kind of a unique situation because I was still going to high school at St. Mary's. But they were fine with me coaching freshman girls. So I did 3 years as the freshman girls assistant. And my first year, I was actually in U.S. history with Coach Green. And he said, hey, I'm looking for a sixth grade boys Mavericks coach. I said, all right, sign me up. So I started my head coach my own first team when I was 16. After doing the girls for a few years, I jumped over to the boys side, did 2 years JV assistant, 2 years varsity assistant, freshman head coach, JV head coach, and obviously fortunate to get the job last year. So St. Mary's has always been a part of my life for a long time, third generation St. Mary's student myself. And so I'm just really fortunate to be a part of such a storied program.
So funny story about Ken Green. You said you were in his class. I was in his class too at Lodi. So it was funny. It was my freshman year at Lodi. I walk up. Karsten was second or third grade, at the CYO camp at presentation, and
Yeah.
I'm like, "Hey, Coach Green, I don't know if you remember me. I was, in your class at Lodi." And he's like, he looks at me, and he's like, "Is that your son?" I said, "Yep." He was like, "Oh man, I'm getting old. I'm getting old." He was like, Lodi. He's like that. Because he was my driver's ed teacher and health teacher, and he was
Yeah.
like, that was literally my first job out of college, because he started at Lodi, but he would say, I'm getting old. I'm getting old. The Danny Glover, the
Yeah.
Danny Glover line. So
And then he coached for 12 more years after that. So,
right.
Yeah.
So, how would you describe your coaching philosophy in just a few words?
I'd probably say tough but fair. I think it's important to hold your players accountable, and know that everybody coaching is not a personal thing. I think that's a lot of kids these days can struggle with. But yeah, I think just being consistent with all my guys. Doesn't matter what your role is on the team, like being tough on them, but fair about what their roles are. And trying to make it fun. I mean, basketball should be fun. I think we all enjoy it. It all bonds us together. So making sure we're working hard and enjoying one another is really important.
All right, Karsten.
And who were your biggest influences on your coaching style growing up?
Yeah, I think I kind of mentioned some names already, right? So Lewis Held was the one that got me into coaching. He graduated, played at St. Mary's back in the 80s. And I learned just so much from him, not even about coaching, just about life, hard, work hard, be organized, just, and then in terms of the coaching stuff, I mean, Coach Green, all our coaches at St. Mary's, obviously Coach Green Matt Valverde, when I worked under him for a couple years now, he's my assistant coach. He's been St. Mary's almost 30 years. Gary Mancebo was there for 40 years. Steve Keeter was with us a long time. So just having those guys, just such a positive influence, and so much knowledge. Like when you're the young assistant and the other four guys have a combined like 160 years of coaching experience, you just sit and listen. And so I learned so much when I was younger, just from all of them. I think that was I was really fortunate to be in a position to learn from them.
What's the biggest thing that you took from Coach Green? Just being able to observe and watch him or interact with him and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think he was able to. I mean, I pretty much learned everything from him, right? I mean, I don't know, one big thing is tough to say. You know, the consistency of who he was year in, year out, day in, day out, was something to take away. Excuse me. Trying to get, and then just trying, like, coaching wise, just trying to get your teams to play their best basketball at the end of the year. He always had a knack for, um, you know, getting our guys to peak at the right times during the playoffs, and so learning that from him, and what he did, how to do things is probably the most one of the most important things to take away from his coaching style.
Gotcha. What's something people might be surprised to learn about how you run your program?
I think one thing that and I don't it kind of surprises me, to be honest, because I only learned, I kind of grew up just kind of knowing one thing almost, um and I don't really know anything different. But what surprises me is like how, like, our staff at St. Mary's, from me down to our freshman assistant, like, we're all really close, and we all talk, and we all work together, and I value what those guys input, as much as I take input from our JV coaches, and we all try to do the same thing, right? We kind of run the same system, we run the same offense, we our philosophies for defense are the same. Like, to me, that's what I think is most surprising, how many programs don't do that at the high school level. You go watch a varsity team who plays man to man and picks up full court, and their freshman team sits in a 2-3 zone. Well, the idea is to develop, the players to grow through the program, and I think that's so important. And I think that just kind of almost, I don't know, people would be surprised by that, but that surprises me about a lot of. They say, well, how come your freshman team runs a different offense than your JV team? It's like that doesn't make any sense to me, right? But that's, like I said, I grew up knowing only one thing, um, and like I said, all of us are really close, and I'm fortunate to be around. I think there's 12 of us on staff, and I mean that's kind of a um, embarrassment of riches for some programs to struggle to get lower level coaches. We have two assistants at every level, and it really makes my job a lot easier, when you're close, and everyone's working together. So I would say that kind of surprises me a little bit. I'm
Mhm.
surprised more people don't do it that way, but like I said, I don't really know any different. Um, but yeah, that's kind of my big takeaway from, in terms of what people do, at other places.
Right, right.
And do you have any core values you expect every player in your program to embody?
Yeah, I think, as much as we're coaching basketball, we're still educating, um, kids that are very impressionable. I think people always ask me, like, why high school? Why not try to go to college? Why not try to do this? I think for me personally, I think you have a greater impact, on players at this age. They're still, uh, you know, kind of trying to figure out what they're going to do in life. So when we try to instill a lot of, like, just core values, like, biggest one is, right, we got to respect one another, right? That's huge. Hard work, being on time. Big one we stress in our program is about communication, like trying to teach kids to be self advocates,
Mhm.
is huge. Have the players come and talk to the coach, instead of having the parents, kind of a thing. So it's a it's I think, like I said, it's more a life skills than or values that are important that we're teaching. Obviously the basketball is the basketball, but at the end of the day, how many guys are going to play at the next level or going on to make this their career? So if we can teach them something about life and how to be prepared for life, uh, that's really important to me.
What does the leadership look like on the team, both, from you and players and stuff like that?
Yeah, I obviously, it kind of starts with the head coach. Really, really try to push our seniors to be leaders. You know what I mean? That's most important. If we can hold each other accountable, and we have like player led leadership like that's what the best teams have, right? Like we're going to go a lot further if they're leading one another. Some of it's just we have some guys that just purely lead by example. They win every sprint, they win every competition in practice, they compete hard. Other guys are a little more vocal. So it varies from year to year. I think it's really it really comes down to your senior class. Like I think last year was different than this year, and who knows what next year will be like. But if we can get our guys to hold each other accountable, and that's when we'll be at our best.
All right. What is the biggest skill development priority for your team this season?
This is the biggest skill development. I think we really got to we're really undersized. I mean, we just we just who we are and who we have been. So really like emphasizing the ability to go rebound out of your area
Mhm.
is huge. We're working on it constantly, watching film on it. We played Vanden the other night, who had 5 inches on us in every position,
Yeah.
and we're real physical. So we got to learn from that, and just we got to get better. You know, Rebounding is huge, and even on the offensive end, it's can lead the easy baskets, and we
Yeah.
got guys that can do it. Just getting them to do it. I think I heard a great Mick Cronin interview last night. He was like, "You're either too cool, too lazy, or too soft to rebound." And he said, "If you're all three, that's bad." So
Yeah.
if we can maybe shake off the coolness, I think we could be a little bit better.
Right. Right.
And how do you balance fundamentals with modern basketball concepts like spacing, pace, and analytics?
Yeah, it's a good question. Um, I think the fundamentals are obviously really important, but the game's changing, right? I mean,
Hmm.
thank you, Steph Curry, for just absolutely firing threes from everywhere. We appreciate that. Or some of these guys that just dribble a million times. But I think having an understanding of what your team's strengths are, and I think that comes back. When you talk about fundamentals, our lower levels do a great job of kind of developing those and um, getting our guys to understand playing off 2 feet and what I mean, stepping to pass and things like that. And then at the varsity level, we're able to they have that strong foundation. But it's funny because you see a lot of times like everybody wants to go up off 1 foot, everybody wants to shoot double pump, and it's like go watch the NBA, man. How many guys just jump stop 2 feet, use a lift fake? It's a little more prevalent than I think people realize in the
Right.
game. They see all the highlights and all that stuff, but man, if you watch those guys, their fundamentals are so solid. Their footwork is so solid that it's this part. It's so necessary. So, but knowing your team's strengths too, right? Like being up and down, getting out in the open court, playing fast. It's good and it's fun, right? Like
Hmm.
getting playing, firing it up there. That's part of the enjoyment of the game. So it definitely have to have a blend of both for sure.
I had a conversation with Coach Eddie Hernandez over at Delta, and he made a comment. We were talking about the Peraza boys who have been through St. Mary's and then went to Delta, and he's like that's the thing when I get boys from St. Mary's, they have the fundamentals down. They
Yeah,
know the basic fundamentals of the game. He's like, I don't have to teach them defense. He's like, they
yeah,
know the rotations on defense. He's like, when we get them, they are fundamentally sound when they come here. He's like, that's
nice.
one of the things that I really respect, the program about. So
Yeah, no,
they're ready.
that's good to hear, and that's so those are kind words. So maybe you
Yeah.
should recruit a few more of our guys then.
Well, then we've got we have one out at MJC too, right? So yeah,
No,
got to go
I'm
into the
just kidding.
go to the next level. They're all moving
Yeah,
up to the next
definitely,
level. So
definitely.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. What are some traits that you look for night to night when you're choosing your starting five, versus like your role players and stuff like that?
yeah, I think it's about what's best for the team. What's the best group to get us going. I think there's everyone wants to sit there and have their name announced and run through the little cheerleader line or whatever. But I think it's sometimes it's just more important about who the finishing five is, right? Like that to me is a little bit more important because sometimes you don't always start your best group. Sometimes you bring a guy off the bench who because he's going to come in and play as hard as he can no matter what, and that sometimes on a night where you're struggling you need a guy like that. Or I thought last year our sixth man was kind of one of our better scorers. So it was good to have him out there with our second group, because he got a lot more opportunities to score than maybe if he was in the starting lineup. So I think we're kind of looking for a blend of who works well together, who understands their role. And I think the emphasis on starting is interesting. But I think, like I said, it's the five that we want in there at the end of the game. That's the most important. But it just and it can depend night to night what we're doing, but and matchups too. You know what I mean? Sometimes we got to start a bigger lineup. Not that we have one, but you know it could just depend, and it takes time too, right? Like it's the group that starts the first game of the year may not be the group that starts the fifth game of the year. Just as we develop and go through things, and when figure each other out a little bit, we'll make those adjustments as we go.
All right. What excites you most about this year's team?
I think two things as a group. Just really these guys work. These guys, I mean, I've had them, the seniors now, they're my last JV team, right? So they've been with me for 3 years, and these guys are so committed um, to everything, right? I mean, from and then they never miss a weightlifting or a practice or conditioning. Like they've put the time in, and I'm really um, excited to see, the fruits of their labor.
Hmm.
And because for 3 years they've at least with me they've been working really hard, and so I'm excited to see how it pans out. I think one thing we're all excited about, and I don't because we're a team first, I don't like to single out certain guys, but I think if you asked everybody on the team, everyone's really excited to see Evan Dorman out there
Yep.
playing consistently. Had
Yeah.
the traumatic knee injury his freshman year, and it's kind of finally back to a point where he can play consistently. And I think everyone's, his teammates included, are excited to see that as well. So, um, yeah, I mean, he's all about the team first. So,
Yeah.
we're real excited for that.
Good to
And
hear. Good to hear.
Yeah.
you've talked about things you're excited about. Do you feel like there's anything that you need to improve on, that the team needs to improve on?
Everything. uh,
Rebounding.
yeah. No, I mentioned that. I think, it's, we're still learning each other. I think, um, and I think that's going to be a process throughout the year. Um, as we get guys back from football and things like that. Like we're kind of guys back from injury. Uh,
Mm.
we're kind of ever evolving. So, just the consistency of working hard every day, getting better at everything. I mean, we really, it's kind of a joke, but yeah, we got to get better at everything. We need to continually improve. I like where we're at. I like our start to the year. I'm excited to get games going and see. But as long as we can continue to get better, rebound the basketball and defend, we'll be okay this year.
Looking at your guys' schedule, what's a game that you guys have like kind of circled or that it's gonna be a tough one?
Well, I think, it's a little cliche, but you got to kind of take it game by game. And our first game of the year this week against Franklin of Elk Grove is going to be a big test. They were one of the top, 8 teams in our section last year. Aiden Rollins just broke the school scoring record in his first game of his senior year. This guy's an electric player. And so we go to them on Tuesday night at their place. They're really well coached. Ken Manfrey does a great job. They play super hard. Had the opportunity to go watch them the other night. And so like right out the gate, like our schedule every night, I feel like we have a tough schedule. And so that first game is going to be one where we find out, where do we stand right out of the gate.
All right. Let's see. St. Mary's has a strong athletic tradition. How do you uphold and build on that legacy?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Alvin. It's got a very, I mean, not just for basketball, but for all sports. And
Right.
To be the third varsity coach in 45 years is kind of an honor. Yeah, and there's almost more pressure to do it the right way than to win basketball games, and I think having the support. Obviously, Coach Green's still one of my closest friends. We talk all the time, but even a couple of days ago, I got an email from Coach Gustorf, talking about just kind of upholding that tradition, right? And I think in my eyes, like as long as we're doing it the right way and we're teaching our kids the right things and we represent ourselves well to the school, like we'll be able to uphold that tradition. We're going to be competitive. We want to win, but like I said, doing it the right way is really important, and that's helping teach these guys, how to be young men, not just basketball players. And so, it's an honor. It's a privilege to coach at St. Mary's, and so I feel very honored to have the job, and I got to put the work into to uphold that tradition. It doesn't comes with a lot of responsibility, and I'm excited for it.
Okay.
Carson?
How important is the community and alumni support for the success of your program?
Yeah, I mean, being out of school, right? Like St. Mary's, obviously 150th year this year. The alumni support is huge. When I think you guys were there, but Coach Green's last game, how many former players we just got to come back on a whim. All of them telling me like, Coach, we hope we got your back. Whatever you need, we hope you get the job. All that kind of stuff. But even when we did our fundraising dinner this year, I met a guy who played there in 1967, right? He's still coming back to support our program. And, St. Mary's basketball has been around, a long time before me, and will be here a long time after. It's just my responsibility to carry on the next chapter of it. But those guys make everything. I still, when I talk to guys, the first question everyone asks, how's the team going to be this year, right? And the second question they ask, you still go to the Father Barry tournament at Jesuit, right? So that tournament's been around 51 years. We've been in it all 51 years, right? So, everyone still talks about the great players they played against there. Before COVID, they used to do the host family thing where you go, you stay. But like those kind of traditions are really what bond our program together for all these years. And so These guys are great. Some of them are there at games all the time. Some are more in the background, just doing whatever they can to support the program. So really fortunate to be at a place with such a rich alumni tradition, and I can't thank those guys for their support, enough for everything they do for me and for our kids. Ultimately it's the kids that benefit from their generosity and their support. So really, really unique opportunity to have all these guys always still around, still supporting us.
Yeah.
All right.
How do you stay connected with these players after they graduate?
Yeah, I think it's hard you want to kind of keep tabs on everybody, right? But it's not always easy. I think now with being able to just shoot somebody a text message, right, is like so easy to get a response back. I social media obviously too. Following older players, stuff like that. It makes it a lot easier to stay connected with them. Being in town, seeing a lot of their parents that still
Mm-hmm.
live here, so I'm able to keep up with a lot of them. But yeah, just sometimes like I'll just be sitting around, nothing to do. Hey, I'm just gonna text these three guys and see what's going on. And you know, very few of them have gone on to continue playing basketball, but a lot of them are doing really well, doing really successful. Arnado, who graduated from us last year, he's in the Air Force Academy, so I was texting him through basic training, making sure he was, getting along all right, and hearing from those guys. Bryce Johnson, he's over playing professionally in England right now, but we have a good relationship. We stay in touch, and usually when you can stay in touch with one of those guys, you kind of get the rundown on everybody else their age. So uh, I'd like to do a better job of it for sure, but it's tough when you got a lot of things going on, but
Yeah.
all these guys are. It's good. It's good to when you run into them, it's good to hear from them. And like I said, like Carson's last question, like they're all so supportive, and it's great to have that kind of alumni tradition.
All right.
Mhm.
Alvin?
When your coaching career is all said and done, what do you hope your players remember most about playing for Coach Bloom?
I think hopefully that they learn something. That'd be the first they learn something about basketball life, but too like that that I was the same guy, right? I'm the same guy that you know I'm just consistent and supportive, and they know they were cared for when they were in my program. That to me is the most important thing. Knowing that hey, we had a good relationship. This guy was consistent with me. He was honest with me. He was fair with me. And he really did care about me more than just a player on the team, but as a person. Like to me, that's probably the most important thing. Hopefully, when guys when I look back in my career.
All right.
Perfect. Well, that, wraps up that section. We're going to move into our rapid fire questions.
Okay.
These would be anywhere from a word to a sentence. If there's a question that you really like and you want to expand on, go ahead. But really looking for that word to a sentence on these. So,
All right.
perfect. First one, I'll start us off. Favorite basketball coach of all time?
That's tough. I'm gonna go expand on this one. I think right off the get. The rapid
It's
fire just
it's
came to a halt,
understandable.
but
Mhm.
I'm really like curious about reading a lot about famous coaches and their how they kind of conduct their programs more so than the X's and O's. So I've read really good books, Dean Smith,
Mm.
Krzyzewski. Um, I'm reading Dan Hurley's right now, which is really interesting. You know, just kind of taking from a lot of different people's just philosophies or learning from their journeys. Obviously, the biggest coaching influence is, obviously the guys I mentioned that I coached at St. Mary's with. Um, always been a big admirer of Buzz Williams. He's the way he runs his programs, or he's been at Marquette, uh, Virginia Tech, Texas A&M, like, making it more than about basketball. Those guys, I've, been able to learn a lot from. Obviously, had success and are winning coaches. So it's tough to pinpoint one person, but there's a lot of guys doing a lot of great things out there, and to learn from them has been fantastic.
Good, good.
Mhm.
Go to pregame snack or drink.
Too nervous to eat before games.
Okay.
Just have some water, and we'll worry about the after the post game.
What's tougher to coach, offense or defense?
Say that one more time.
What's tougher to coach, offense or defense?
Uh, Probably defense.
Mhm.
Everybody wants to shoot it. No one wants to get in the stands to take a charge, but we're getting there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Besides your own, what's your favorite gym to play in?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, Favorite gym to go to? I don't. mm, I don't know. I've coached a lot of games at Jesuit. Um, they do a
Mm.
top-notch job
Mhm.
there. I don't know if it's my favorite. All our league opponents, I always feel like we have tough road games in our league. Um, you know, so yeah, maybe there, yeah, there or can't even think where else we played a lot at, but I'll probably have to say Jesuit just because the time spent there.
Right.
Mhm.
Gotcha. I think I already know the answer to this question, but zone or man to man?
Man to man.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very much zone in the varsity level. So
Yeah, well, I will say when it's it is sometimes you got to do it scout
yeah,
specific, right? So when won the section in NorCal in '06, we employed a little 2-3 zone against Sakai and won 37-34 or whatever. So it's
right.
definitely a useful tool, but yeah, we're definitely more of a man-to-man uh, program for sure.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
feel like sometimes teams struggle against that because they don't see it right throughout the
Yeah,
season, and when all of a sudden someone throws it out them, and then they're like, "Oh crap, what?" And then
yeah,
we don't usually go over this. So as an offense, you got to still keep the 1-3-1, in your
yeah,
in your back pocket for offense. So
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
Coach.
Would you rather have an early morning practice or late night practice?
Early morning, definitely. I'm an early morning guy. So I'm not sure my players enjoyed the 8 a.m. practice yesterday, but it was necessary.
In
Gives them the rest of the day to rest.
yeah.
Yeah.
In crunch time, are you drawing up a play or you just let you're getting your guy the ball?
It depends on the
Mm.
situation. I think, if we get a rebound and we're going and the defense isn't set up, there's no reason to call a timeout. Let the defense set up. If it's on the side out of bounds or something, maybe we're calling a timeout and drawing it up. But yeah, that's more of a situation specific kind of deal. So, but I love the at the end if you got it and you're going and there's no defense isn't set up, let's go make a play. Get it to your
Mhm.
guy, let him make a play. So
What's the most underrated skill in high school basketball?
most underrated skill. Um, I think man, I I don't know if it's really a skill to be honest with you, but I think just playing as hard as you can all the time on both
Mm.
ends of the floor. I
Mhm.
think guys tend to measure up, see how hard they need to work to be successful instead of just going out there and laying it all on the line all the time. And when you get those players, it becomes infectious. So I think I mean, it's not really a a skill per se, but just having that. If you could get a team of that, that would be incredible. But I think kids are kids and they tend to want to put in I'll say the minimal amount of effort, but how hard do I really need to go in this situation? And then, but having those guys that can just go all the time and compete all the time and play as hard as they can all the time, practice everything. Those guys are really fun to coach. One, two, just create a great environment for your team.
Piggybacking off that, would you consider taking a charge a skill? Because
Absolutely.
I know you guys
100%.
give the award out for the player who takes the most charges throughout the
Yeah.
year, right
Mhm.
at the end of the year. So
Yeah. No, it's definitely a skill because one, you got to be able to read the situation. Two, you got to be able to sacrifice yourself,
hmm
and a lot of guys aren't willing to do that, and um, it's tough. And we've been fortunate at St. Mary's to have guys over the years that will
Yep.
take 20 plus in a season, and I think it's the ultimate um, kind of sacrifice you can make for your team. And when you get a guy or guys like that, it's really special. We had two guys some years ago, 2016 maybe 17, that each took over 20.
Wow.
Christopher Monkton and Jordan Trotter, and
Mm.
they both had one. I don't know, one had 24, one had 22 or something like that. I was like, wow, this is really special. Like that may
Yeah.
never be topped. The very next year, we had a kid named Tommy Rigdon take 40 in a season. And so it helped that we went on a deep playoff run and he got a lot
Right.
more opportunities. But I mean, so yeah, that's a definite skill that a lot of guys aren't just not willing to do, and
Yeah.
and the guys that
Mhm.
are, yeah, they're special.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. And do you have a favorite NBA player to study for coaching ideas?
Not Steph Curry, I guess.
No, I
No.
love Steph. I'm a huge Warrior fan, and I'm just saying he's changed the landscape of the game
Yeah.
for sure. He's fun to
Mhm.
watch, and um, but I'm not. I don't know if there's one particular guy, and obviously this is probably I'm not probably it is a 100% biased answer, and just because I've had the privilege of watching him work out, and that's Gabe Vincent. He obviously is our guy, right? St. Mary's grad,
Mhm.
but having like to see his individual workouts in person a couple of times,
Mm.
you'd be surprised about how much uh, how not it's not necessarily what you think, right? It's not, these workout guys that have you dribbling through chairs and cones and 1,000 dribbles, or like everything's pretty basic, but
hmm
it's done with just like um, incredible intensity and effort and repetition and um, and purpose to it. You know what I mean? And so like to learn from that, actually when he was out here doing his clinic um, this summer, had a couple of my seniors come and just watch, and I'm like, what's the biggest thing you notice? And they're like, he just goes so hard every time, and he
Mm.
doesn't do like there's nothing special. It's a lot of catch and shoot, couple dribbles, and then one of my players goes, Coach, well, he was able to shoot floaters from the elbow, and you don't let us. And I say, yeah, he's in the NBA. You're not in the NBA. So I think being able to just kind of learn from even at the highest level, when you talked about fundamentals, some of the most basic stuff, just footwork and um, you know, finishing strong and all that kind of stuff. Like it was definitely it's definitely been a cool experience to learn from him and watch him on his journey.
What's your biggest pet peeve during practice?
Um, Probably just when guys are talking while I'm talking, or when the assistant coach is talking, they kind of know that we get that out of them pretty early, but they still do it. It still drives me crazy. That and the one kid that's hurt over on the side dribbling the basketball while I'm talking, just I don't know, for whatever reason, I don't know. It just drives me nuts. Or I'm trying to talk to my team and the freshman team is being extremely loud, changing their shoes. Like I don't know. Just those little things. Like, will you guys just be quiet? Like, I'm not like I don't know. I'm not sharing the world's secrets or anything while I'm talking, but
Yeah,
man, it just drives me crazy.
that's funny.
Yeah.
If you weren't a coach, what job would you have?
I don't know. I remember like fifth grade career day enunciation.
Mhm.
I think I dressed as a basketball coach. So I'm not really sure. Like I haven't thought about it a whole lot. You know, if I might be involved in education, maybe getting into administration or something like that, or something in the golf world would be fun to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just that would be, I don't know what it would be, but something in the golf industry
There you
probably.
go. There you
Mhm.
go.
What's your favorite sport movie of all time?
Oh, definitely Hoosiers. I mean, it's a classic. Can't
Yeah.
can't beat it. So
Right.
yeah.
During a timeout, are you loud and energetic, or are you trying to stay calm and collected?
Uh, Again, depends what the situation calls for. If we need a first quarter, you know, uh, pep talk, sometimes that's, if you see me out, take a 30-second timeout, and we're out at the free throw line, it's probably loud and energetic. If it's late in the game and we need to be calm, you know, then, just kind of settle your guys down. I think they really feed off, how your emotions. So if you're all crazy and we need to just be under
Hmm.
control and calm, like, so it's really situation specific. So that definitely can do both.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I got one. We actually off script a little bit. Who's the
Yeah.
biggest trash talker on your team right now?
Mhm.
Who's the biggest trash talker?
Yeah.
Um,
Or do you have one?
I Yeah, I don't know. I like to divulge what goes on in practice. Those that's between the guys and the team.
Okay,
But
okay.
I love it. There's always some good banter, and I think that I think that's healthy, to be honest with you. Like when
Right.
you can talk a little trash and get into it, it fires the guys up. So they're all pretty good at talking a little bit. So
Okay.
makes it
All
fun.
right. All
Yeah.
right. All
Yeah.
right.
What's a must-have item in your coaching bag?
In my coaching bag, like as in,
Like, what would you
like,
bring to an away game?
oh, okay.
Or
Yeah, I just you guys remember the movie The Water Boy, and he's like got
Yep.
the notebook and he's holding it like this. Yeah, I got one of those. It doesn't like have like all the greatest plays in the world drawn up, but it just
Yeah.
all our scouting
Mhm.
reports, everything. I just like buy one a year and I just write everything down. So that's like my,
Gotcha.
I don't know, my safety
Mhm.
blanket, if you will. Like I got a lot of stuff written down in there, from coaching clinics to coaching
Yeah.
meetings to everything. So that goes with me wherever I go.
Makes sense.
Mhm.
So,
All right, I
All
think we
right.
got one more left.
all right.
What is one word that you would use to describe this year's team?
Yeah, man, that's tough. I One word I would just say they're ready, and they're ready to go. They're ready to compete. They're ready to prove a lot of people wrong. Last year was not the greatest year, and I think we're ready to get back on a winning track. So I think they're just, yeah, like I said, they're ready, man. They're ready to go for Tuesday for sure. So
Perfect. Well, I think that's all
yeah,
we got. So, thank you so much again for taking the
yeah,
time out of your busy
yeah.
schedule and everything.
Mhm.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I appreciate you guys having me on, and doing the podcast. It's been great. Been following along, listening. You know, for someone who'd rather go to a high school game than go to like a college or an NBA game, like I love the coverage on the high school sports.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it. I think the kids appreciate it as well. I don't know if all the parents appreciate it all the time, but no, you guys are doing a great job. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
yeah,
you
you.
man.
very
And
much.
and then just want to shout out Coach Franks and the football team. Go Rams!
Yep.
Go get that blue banner,
Mhm.
man. We're
Okay.
we're all rooting for you.
Yep, yep.
All right.
All righty. Thank you again, Coach
Thank
Bloom.
you, Bloom.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you
Absolutely.
guys.
Thank you all for watching all the way through and, paying attention to that interview. It was an absolutely another amazing interview to be a part of. I
Mhm.
know we all enjoyed it thoroughly, and I hope you guys did too. With that, we know this is long. This is another long episode. The next couple could be long because just football and basketball mixing. With that, we'll keep you in the know. Have an amazing Thanksgiving and everything like that. With that, we'll see you next week. See ya.
Yeah.
See ya.